Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Dogma podcast. I am Jose and I'm joined as every single edition by the close friend Blake.
Hey Jose, I'm happy to be here. I brought my opinions.
You wrote your opinions,
Yep.
You didn't leave it in the other pants.
No.
You kept it
with me
close to
here.
your heart. Yeah. This week we are going to be talking about the 2008 Japanese movie Departures, directed by Yōjirō Takita.
Well done. You
Close
did better
enough.
with that name than I would have. So
This was the pick for this week, and this was actually
yeah, who's pick?
my pick.
This was your pick.
Yes, my pick. I picked. So let me tell you why. Why did I pick this? So since we started talking about cinema, like maybe 10 years ago, we have always trying to find movies that the other party didn't watch and that we actually like, and we think that this could be interesting for you to watch and just discuss it. After so many years of friendship, I had the feeling that we no longer have so many movies that only one of the sides watch. I mean, probably you have like many, and I have many, but not that we think that the other side may find interesting.
Yeah, there's a whole collection that I love in my head that I would never even admit to you that I like. So
And you will never make me, for the
Never.
good of our friendship, you will never make me watch. So this has always been a movie that I only watched once before this time, and I had good memories of. And probably I mentioned it to you like several times. I never pushed you to watch it because a part of me always felt like, okay, I don't know if he's going to like it or not. But given like how grim the times are nowadays, this is a movie that came back to my mind from the perspective of being sweet and heartfelt, in a time that everything tends to be like more polarizing or more like sad news that you can read left and right. And I felt like, hey, this may be an interesting time to watch something like this.
So you just used the word to describe your memory of the film the last time
Correct.
you watched it as sweet.
Yeah.
Do you
I mean,
feel
it's bittersweet.
when you rewatched it, do you still feel like it's a sweet film?
I think that is a sweet feel that I take away. It's a bit more of a bit bitter, a bit sweet. It's like a tragic comedy of sorts.
Let me
Not really like a
rephrase the
high comedy.
question. The memory
Sure.
of your first film, when you rewatched it, did you have the same impression? Did you feel the same about it
Yes,
yourself?
I did.
Okay, got it.
I did. Yeah. Yeah, and I will say later, after we go like over the synopsis, when we start like talking a bit more about like what we thought watching it, I will go a bit more into detail. But yeah, I took more or less the same things. So, as this was my pick, do you want to summarize it?
Yes, but I would like your help. But the plot is fairly simple. How would you say the main character's name? I don't want to mispronounce it. Daigo?
Daigo.
Daigo,
Yeah,
okay.
Daigo.
So Daigo, we first meet him and he's living in his hometown and he is clearly working in a funeral home or with people who prepare the bodies after death. And that first scene has actually made me fairly uncomfortable because several men molest the body of a dead transgender person and kind of make a big deal about the woman having a penis, and it was very
I don't think that they make a big deal. I think that they treat it even like politely about like, hey, she actually has a penis. It's like he's a bit like, I don't know how to deal with this because I've never like had to deal with this. And then in a very polite manner, he goes like to the parents and asks them, he's like, do you prefer makeup for boys or girls? He doesn't make like a big fuss or anything.
They did their
that
best.
I found like super sweet.
But the fact that they both had to touch the woman's genitals and just it was very weird to me, and I was like, this is getting to our question about whether it's time or timely. That's absolutely a time thing. Anyway, so he's in this profession that's very sensitive and complex and comes with a whole bunch of associations from the Japanese culture that we learn later in the film. And then it jumps back in time, and we learn that he's a cellist who was working in what is the
In
city?
Tokyo, in a symphony.
It is Tokyo?
They were in Tokyo. Yeah, they were in Tokyo.
Yeah, Tokyo. So he was a cellist in a symphony in Tokyo, and we kind of see that the symphony itself was disbanded. It's not that he was fired because he was a bad cellist or anything. And so he and his wife don't really have that many options but to go back to his hometown, where he was left an apartment by his parent.
House. Yep.
A house.
The mother died.
The
I think it's like he inherited.
And he kind of re-enters into his childhood memories, and his dad has a legacy there, but his dad left the family when he was young, and the Daigo still has issues about it. And he ultimately answers an ad for a very euphemistically written ad where it says looking for people helping with departures. I would love to speak Japanese because I bet there's even more of a nuance there, right? In the way it was worded. He thinks it's for a travel agency. He goes to apply for the job, and actually it's for, souls departing this life. And so basically it's what is the word in English? Like funeral?
It's not really like a funerary.
Yeah, like a funerary, I guess. Body
but it's a bit more. It's close to embalming, but basically we learn like a lot of cultural stuff here about how Japanese tackle this. Is that most of these bodies, they don't get into the ground. Is that they are incinerated. So there's a bit more of a preparation between they died and they're going to the incineration house.
Yeah.
So they feel like that gap into just giving opportunity to the family to just say farewell to the body or their beloved, looking closer to who they were in life.
Yeah, which is a lovely ritual that actually made a lot of sense to me. And when I was looking for the American equivalent, I was like, wait, is there not that? I mean, I guess we have viewings. I guess this would be a viewing.
Like a wake kind of thing.
Yeah.
But usually it's like they take the body after it died and it comes back looking in a different way. Here it's like you see the whole preparation, the whole family is present. It's almost like a soul about how they are coming, quote unquote, back to life.
So you and I, throughout our friendship, have talked a lot about the show 6 Feet Under, which in my opinion is the greatest television of all time.
It's important television, yeah.
But all joking aside, because of that show, I've put a lot of thought the last 20 years into what grieving means to me and the rituals around it and how they help us grieve and move on or find closure or whatever. And I just found the rituals that are shown in here extremely beautiful and cathartic and really, I don't know if it seems natural to me to say goodbye to a body in that way. So for that, the way the film showed those rituals, I thought was incredibly beautiful.
Did you finish the synopsis?
No, sorry. Okay, so anyway, Daigo gets into this this profession. He's embarrassed at first. He doesn't even tell his wife what it is. His wife finds out and actually leaves him. I mean, she goes to visit her parents. She comes back and she's pregnant. The parent of a child acquaintance dies, and he performs the ritual where he gains respect, I think, from those around him, but also he gains his own respect.
Well, I mean, it's with the funeral of the mother of the bad house that they tend to go to.
Yeah, but wasn't he friends with her son?
Yeah. Okay. He was he was friends with his house. With her son that they grew up together. Yeah. As going back to the hometown, and that's something that she goes as she knows the family. And at that point is when she starts understanding the level of care and love that he's putting into this and how important it is for the family to have this opportunity of saying goodbye and just seeing people treating the body of their beloved with that level of care.
Yes, and I think I would end the synopsis there. I don't know if you feel like I left anything out.
No, I mean, there is a bit of a side story. This movie has 17 years. I won't spoil it, but there is also a part of how Daigo deals with the absence of his father. That it disappeared and he didn't think about it until he came back to his hometown and lives in the coffee house that his father used to love. That I was telling my boyfriend while watching is I would love to live there. That house. Because it's basically like a cool dive bar. but with a house on top of it,
Yeah.
but everything like integrated. So we also see like progression on that arc and growth at the character. I think that both like the wife and him, they grow a lot during the movie. From what we saw at the beginning about like coming from Tokyo to this, we don't have like too much of the oh my god they come to the rural Tokyo Japan and blah blah blah. It's more about like hey, you are forced to do stuff sometimes that you are not prepared to do, but if you drop your preconceived ideas, you can put a level of care and love that it can just make it beautiful as and respectful as any other job that you can do.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, did you like it? What did you think of it?
I didn't particularly like it. No. I thought it was playing with subjects that are intense, like, you know, grief, disappointment, family, abandonment, all of that, but it never really like engaged with them. It was pretty superficial in my opinion. And also there was so much about the film that I didn't understand. Like, why do people in Japan look down so much on people that help families with people dying? Like, I correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understood is that everyone looks down on him. It's not a respected profession at all, which
Yep.
why?
Yep.
That doesn't make any sense.
I think that's like pretty common. I mean, I don't know, but in Spain, I think that it would be like a similar thing about like just working with the dead. It can be seen as you're profiting from that, and it's a bit of a disgusting thing of you're touching dead bodies.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing. Do you feel like that's the attitude here in America? Just given your 13 years here?
I mean, I don't know anyone that works in that industry, and I have never heard of anyone like telling me like positive or negative things.
But like,
this.
What would be your gut instinct if you were to, at a party, meet a funeral person? There has to be a word in English. A funeral home worker.
Person that touched the death.
There you go.
Okay,
Would you be like, ew? Oh my gosh. I just don't feel like that's a natural reaction. So I think there's something in the Japanese culture.
But I mean, the thing is that I watched 6 Feet Under, so I'm prepared.
You're a little bit
6
more
feet
evolved.
under prepared.
You're evolved when it comes to that.
I'm evolved. Is that I'm going to be asking him, is that, did any maniac ever kidnap you when you were carrying any corpse with you? And you thought that you were going to have sex with them, but you didn't?
Did any of the bodies get an erection after death?
Yeah. I mean,
they
I'm
call
asking
it an
because
angel boner?
I watched Alan Ball's seminary masterpiece in HBO, 6 Feet Under, so I need to know. So,
Yeah.
no, I don't think that we have like an immediate like a reaction of a negative thing. But this is not trying to come as a snow or anything, but I consider myself not too judgmental about like how people earn a living. I think that all jobs are respectful. So
Yeah, no, I just didn't understand that part because, like, everybody dies, right? This is a necessary thing, and yes, the money is exchanged, but it's also fairly important in how we grieve and like get closure on important things. So I just felt like I expected the Japanese culture to have a lot of respect for that profession and not look down on it. So that was confusing to me in the film.
no, I honestly think that they consider it more of a fast food service, more about like no one wants to do this shit, and we see it like at the end when we see like those soldiers that they're going to be like doing it. It's like okay, cool, yeah. We put our hand for a second, we put like the small bean collar, in their hands, and it's like we just carry it, and he's like no, that's not how you do it. So that's the part that I feel that this movie tried to present the social connotation and reivindicate that it's about how you do it. It's about like the respect that you want to show, and we need to present that respect for giving closer to the families. And I agree.
But everyone should have already known that. It's like they were trying to teach us a lesson that's like, oh, duh.
Well, but look, on these cases, I just feel like we didn't grow up in Japan. We are not part of the Japanese culture, So I think that at least like what it's trying to tell me, I think that it's like properly contrasted by the reactions that we see on the screen. You know, like the wife leaving, that I think that's okay. I don't know if this is over dramatic, or this is truly how most people may actually feel, and this is a bit of a not a wake up call, but a bit of hey, we want to put this out there as there is beauty on these things.
Yeah, and again, that should be so obvious. There doesn't need to be a film about it.
I'm not completely sure, dude. Is that because it's like I had the feeling that we all have to interact like with this world like a very limited amount of times in our lives. You know, it's like our parents die, or a special one dies, or we are the first one to go. But it's like there is like a very finite number of times that we do this, and it's like we usually are going to be like dealing with the emotional load of that moment, and we may not be paying that attention. So this actually tries to shift it into we give you like windows into the grief of different families, and just seeing like how they react, or how this actually like helps them process that. And it's like just like putting it on the centerpiece, like the processing itself. I know that maybe is that you're going to tell me that it's like, yeah, that's what 6 Feet Under did. Two, it's like it's true, it is, but it's a different culture, and I think that there is a merit to just do this over 2 hours of a movie than not 6 seasons of a soap opera.
Well, that's why I brought it up, because I'm fully willing to admit that there are cultural things that stop me from understanding the full intent of this film. And you and I have also had a conversation ongoing for years about whether or not, if you rely too much on a specific cultural meaning, that kind of stops the film. Well, I'm speaking for me, not for you. We've had this discussion. That kind of stops the film from transcending to any sort of... It's just so rooted into one culture at one time that it can't cross over those boundaries.
I agree with that. But I think that it really depends on how successful they are into transmitting that feeling. A movie is never going to give... a movie is never going to be able to give me the 30 years or 40 years of growing up in Japan and having the Japanese culture. It's not going to be capable. What it can actually be capable is just like transmitting me the beauty, but at the same time the grievance of this scenario, you know. And I think that for me this movie succeeds. That is like, hey, I am someone that has, because of personal reasons, a really hard time dealing with death, and I'm like really afraid of these scenarios of having to go through this. Personal reasons again, and it's like just seeing how helpful like these people and how beautiful these people like make this process look like, it just makes me feel, I don't know, like warm inside. That is like, hey, I should be feeling like super sad. Is that, and we see like people that they are having like the worst time of their lives. You know, the only scene that I remembered of this movie, and I already like replying this question, is like the family. Well, I remember like the general story, but is the family that lost the daughter, and the friends, the high school friends, are there in the room, and they start like just fighting with each other. I remember like that one like perfectly, like about like, holy shit, is imagine something like this happening and you are like, we cannot do anything. It's like, what do you want from us? And I felt it's like, okay, I can see like all of these small windows, all of those vignettes that you're giving me, is that you're giving closure, but you're also like just surfacing the internal, you know, like damage that you have right now for losing this person. And I felt like it was done beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, the film definitely had very nice moments. Like I said, I really appreciated the way they showed the rituals and the beauty of it. But that, I don't think it really achieved what it was trying to do, at least for me.
One more thing. I don't think that this movie has transcending time and space kind of aspirations. Is that we'll go over the timely question or not, but I don't think that it tries to be like hyper profound of I'm going to be like changing how you look at life.
Yeah. I don't think it was definitely trying to even do that, for sure.
Like, what I mean is like, hey, it's a small story, and it's sweet. And for me, I appreciate like the small scale
But
of what
can
it's
you
trying to
admit
tell
that
me.
sweet doesn't necessarily translate to a good movie? There are lots of
Oh no, no, no.
Okay.
But if you actually look at when I talk about movies, I can tell you there is a. If I say that it's sweet, it's because it actually like connected with me. If it didn't connect with me, what I would say is that this is heavy-handed as crap. I can tell you, Cinema Paradiso, like the music from Morricone on that movie, I think that is heavy-handed as shit. But it's sweet. It's still like sweet. It's like, okay, but it's in a borderline area of, okay, this is a different style. On this one, the part that I felt a bit more heavy-handed is that montage in the middle when he's like just playing the cello in a mountain. There's a where is this coming from? Is that I understand that you're trying to be like introspective, and for him, he's finding the same beauty that he used to find in music, as he used to play this instrument from he was little, like doing this process, and it's like a way of connecting where he's coming from. So he's becoming like the salmon that he was observing.
Yep.
Yep.
For me, that's
it's a bit of a okay. Not everything has to be a metaphor. It's like we can just take the like the story, sure, but honestly, it didn't get to a point of detracting from it. I just had a really nice time watching it.
And what more can we really ask for from a film, right? At the end of the day, it's entertainment, right? So if you enjoyed yourself, no, I say this without joking. If you enjoyed watching the film, that's a good film.
Yeah. For me, yes.
That's why I like The Last Holiday with Queen Latifah, because it makes me feel good every time I watch it.
I'm a bit personally hurt that you just compare.
I didn't compare. What I said was I enjoy watching that film. I used to fall asleep watching it in college.
Let's just say that they are like different leagues when it comes to actually having a good time watching a movie. I have a good time watching Showgirls, and I would never put it on the same bucket as Departures.
You're right. I'll admit I didn't mean to compare The Last Holiday and Departures. Departures is a far better film. No joke.
Cool. Okay. Should we go over the questions?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, Blake, would you watch Departures again?
I don't think I would.
Oh, okay. Not even in a plane or anything?
Definitely not on a plane, man. I need something to distract me from the fact we might fall out of the sky. I'm not going to watch a film about like dying people. So no, definitely not on a plane.
Well, I mean, we don't see anyone dying.
Yeah, it's
here.
true. You just see the aftermath. There's not violence in this. I just don't want to think about death while I'm squeezed in between people.
Okay, that's fair. I will watch it again, probably not in a plane. But yeah, it's one of these movies that, I don't know, it makes me feel like something on the worst moments of your life that they can be like a bit of a positive moment or a positive thing of looking at beauty. Would you recommend it?
No.
That's fine. That's fine. It didn't connect with you. It's fine.
Yeah, there's just nothing that stand out about this to me.
Yeah. I would recommend it. It's like probably not to everyone, but I had the feeling that this can be on a introductory to Asian film.
I would agree with that. It's like dipping your toes in the water of kind of the more thoughtful, methodic approach to
Yeah, without like going fully like Drive My Car 3 hours movie or spring, summer.
That's
fall,
the one I
blah,
was
blah,
thinking.
blah.
I was like, yeah. This movie you just watch seasons go by, but it's really beautiful.
Exactly. Would you remember it?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. I didn't remember like all of the scenes, but I remember like the whole story of a cellist has to move back to his native hometown, and then he started just working for a funerary. Is there anything artistic about it?
Yeah. Like I said, the way they showed the rituals was really, really, really lovely, and again, it does have that like stereotypical Asian approach to cinema, not all of Asia, Japanese, where it's very slow and methodical, and you're supposed to sit with the emotions. Like all of that is beautifully done.
Yeah. I agree. One scene that I really like. I was telling my boyfriend, like, "Oh yeah, I remember like loving this scene." There's one of the first ceremonies that they do, and they don't play any music during that one. So it's that you hear like all of the fabric and everything, all of the touch that they do. That it was like, this is an ASMR paradise moment. Yeah, so I think that there has like a very strong like visual language on the making this beautiful.
Yeah.
So, is it a timeless piece?
I don't know. I thought about this question since I've seen it. Honestly, it's right in the middle. I feel like there are things that firmly rooted in 2008, but there's also a lot of timelessness. So I'll say timeless. Let's say.
Okay. Yeah, I would say timeless too. It's true that there are like some small things that may change. Honestly, like the transgender part, it didn't strike me as strange. And I know that we recently watched Tokyo Godfathers, and in that one it was a bit more borderline about like, okay, society probably was like this back then, but is it still like that? In this case, I think that it was handled like so classy that I feel is that's perfect. That's absolutely fine. So yeah, for me it's timeless. I think that is that we as human beings, we're going to keep dealing with grief when we lose like our beloved ones, and like the idea of having someone like helping us through this process and making it as beautiful as possible, I think that is timeless. Would you turn this into a TV show?
I wouldn't, but not because I didn't like it that much. This really feels like a story that should be told in a single sitting, and the length made sense for what it was trying to do. I feel like if you broke this up into episodes, it wouldn't have that same. No, I would just no.
So you're saying that 6 Feet Under was a mistake?
I'm saying 6 Feet Under was entertaining.
And this wasn't. Oh, what a fucker. I probably couldn't turn it into a TV show. I think that there is more background that we could have, but I think that if you pull from it is when you fall into the soap opera territory that 6 Feet Under was.
But like, you would be okay taking this in episodes?
Maybe. I mean, I would like to hear more about the assistant that they have in the funerary house. Is that it sounds like she has stuff, that she has lived some shit.
Yeah, I guess there's this question could be perceived a couple different ways, right? Like, does it fit into the episodic, series that like HBO's does, or do you want to learn more about the world? So I understand why you're saying yes. I wouldn't. I'm saying I wouldn't want to watch an episode every Sunday.
That's fine. I mean, I think that there is a bit of a bodybuilding, a world building that you could be doing here. I think that just having it, imagine that, for example, it was a bit more of him reconnecting with where he's coming from, and just like having a bit more of an exposure to what was it like growing up in this small village, like going back to Tokyo and just coming back. So I know that this may sound like a bit of mixing up 6 Feet Under with Northern Exposure. I think that they could pull it off, but I don't know. I mean, because the thing is, the small snippets that we see into the lives of them, and we even are told like a bit of how times are changing in a small town like that one that is like the bad house owner saying that it's like, when my kids inherit this bad house, it's over. Is that they are like moving to something else. So there is even like a bit of a topic, I forgot to mention this, but a topic of Japan. I don't know if they still have it, but during a very, very long time, there was like this nostalgic feeling of going back to the simplicity and the slower pace of living up in the country feel or smaller houses. So when things like the Ghibli movies, that they play with a bit of the fantasy of, hey, do you remember your small village? That magical things could happen. It's like, no, bitch, it was not about like being a small villages. It was about like you were a kid and you were imagining all of this. But it resonates with Japan in a strong manner. And this a bit of this doesn't get into the magic realism, but it feels into a bit more of a nostalgic feeling of you go back to your old town home and you rediscover like all of these snippets of stories and all of these people about like how they evolve while reconnecting to the magic of being a kid. And he remembers about like the stone letters and stuff like that. I think that that's actually like something like pretty cultural in Japan.
I actually want to talk to you more about this because I just read an article in the New York Times, this is no lie, about how those houses that you're talking about, there's 1 million of them in Japan that have been abandoned. So you can buy them for like $25,000. How interesting.
Well, but the thing is that I'm surprised that we didn't talk about this, is that they have a very strong construction market in Japan. The reason for that is because they don't look at property in a long-term manner. They look at property as something that you own for a lifetime. So when people die, what they tend to happen is that they rebuild a house. It's pretty weird to find people that they live in unless it's an historical place, that it has been there from the Edo age. This is going to be not normal. Is that you're going to be like tearing it down and just building up like something there. So there is always construction.
If it's connected to like this cultural longing to go back to childhood, and yet they've abandoned them. There's something poetic about that. We should like dive into this in Freud.
Yeah. Well, there is the part about like the longing of coming back. It's a bit more of having the feeling of you need to go to the big city, but you also miss the simplicity of the smaller one. Is that in Spain, for example, for Spain we have like a bit of you are going to eventually like move to the big city, but there is not so much the longing of going to the small cities and like where we come from. Is that they tend to have like that more ingrained because of the contrast of being in Tokyo, that is a monster freaking city, and then just like the slow pace and relax of the smaller parts in the country.
That's a lovely sentiment.
Yeah, and probably the Germans have 10 words for describing it. But in this case, it's more of they inherit that, and because they don't have money, is that they're not going to be like rebuilding it or turning it into something. But culturally, it's like it's not normal to live in a house where someone else lived before and they died. I think that there is a bit of a culture of the spirits maybe here also, so let's turn this shit down and let's just rebuild it into something else.
I was looking into moving to Tokyo years ago. I don't know why. Probably I was just bored. And I read a guide for Westerners that's like, just find an apartment in Tokyo where someone died. It'll be half the market value. Japanese people won't want to live there. And I was like, hell yeah, I'd go buy a half price apartment in Tokyo.
I mean, you live in the Tenderloin.
The ghost is probably Japanese. They'll be very respectful. They'll bow all the time. They'll be quiet.
They will bow. Probably they will prepare you like the bath and everything. But yeah, honestly, it's true that I may be like a bit more exposed to Japanese culture, but I found like this, like, hey, this could be like something that you could pull from the thread, and you could have like multiple angles about like how to give more material, give more like insight into, like the nostalgic angle, like the are we trapped here or are we really like happy with living in this small place, Also like the part about like the work that we're doing, how are we perceived in the society as it is.
Well, I'd maybe watch that show that you have in your mind.
Yeah, so I'm going to be like shifting it into yes. Could this have been a sword?
Yes, but it wouldn't have the same emotional inertia, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to go with no, because from the perspective of could you do it, technically, probably, but it's like if you really want to give like all of these like different angles to this story about like, hey, the nostalgic part, hey, am I doing the right move or not? Hey, how am I perceived? Like around is like, hey, I have like these daddy issues. Is like all of that, you have half of them will have disappeared.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have like the cello, for example. This would be like, hey, just got fired. I need to just feed my family. I need to find a job. Oh, it's in a funerary. And chaos ensues.
And then we grew as humans.
Yep. Do you think this movie could have been better?
Yes.
Oh, what would you change?
I would make it better.
Thank you, Blake. How? Thank you for your opinions and your insights.
Yeah, I would. The characters would need to be written in a different way. So would the plot. I mean, I would keep the rituals that were super beautiful, but I would want to just have a little more authenticity with the subject matter that it dealt with, like grief and loss and abandonment and family issues.
So basically, what you wanted, it was a white casted American remake.
Yeah, if they could maybe set it in Los Angeles, have a very sad white family.
Yeah, and just suffering internally, breaking apart. Yeah. Okay, so basically, it's just setting it up in a different culture, probably.
That was all a joke. No, I would not set it in LA. But I do think that it was a little superficial the way it handled things, and I would try and change that.
Okay. For me, I couldn't change it. I had the feeling that, for me, is that this is deep enough. Is that this doesn't have to be a character study of society, on these terms, and it gives me a good open window, in each one of these ceremonies. And I think that is more about these characters and coming to terms into finding beauty in something that it can be a bit negatively perceived by the world. And I think on that, it succeeds. I may have toned down a bit of the silly moments, but I think that they're a good comedy relief. Like when he goes the first day to work and he has to pretend to be a dead body.
And make a training video.
Yep, and made the training video while he's wearing a diaper, but it's okay, whatever. But I think that at the end is that the contrast with the more serious moments is that it doesn't really detract. So I think that this is a movie, I won't call it perfect by any means, but I would say that it's good on what it tries to do. Okay. Should we score this?
Yes, we should.
So this was my pick, so I think that you have to score first.
5.5.
Okay, for me, this is a 7.5.
Ooh, a big spread for us.
Mm-hmm, it is. You were asking me if I got the same from the previous time that I watched it, and yes, I did. I just left with a smile on my face into this was super sweet and heartfelt.
What year did you see it? Did you see it in theaters?
Not in theaters, probably watched it in 2009.
Okay, so 15-ish years. Okay.
Yeah. So long time ago. So it's close to when it was released, but I didn't go to the cinemas. It was more of when it won the Oscar, I think that it became somewhat popular in Spain. About people, I mean, not every day, everyone, but it's I hear mention it a couple of times. And I'm curious, is that this is not a change the world or something like that, but I'm curious to see what people are talking about. I'm checking the score that we gave to Cinema Paradiso when we watched it.
And
your score is higher, my score is lower. I had a feeling that Cinema Paradiso has already run its scores, and every time that I watch it, I focus more on the negative parts. On this one, I only watch it a couple of times, so I'm still oh, this is good.
Well, again, that's why I asked when you first watched it, just because repeat viewings, right? Also, where we're at in our lives. So in 2008, I feel very differently now when I watch films from 2008 than I did back then.
That's so interesting. I had the feeling that it's a different culture.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Factor. Yeah. If you have been listening to us, audience, please just remember to subscribe and say whatever, thumbs up,
Smash
5 stars,
like button.
whatever. Exactly. Tell all your friends and coworkers about this podcast.
And until next time.
Okay. Bye.